Yes, I know I'm super behind on Starverses. You don't have to tell me. This is kind of the same thing, though, isn't it? No, it isn't? Okay, I'll get to it soon. I plan to have a big marathon catch-up session as soon as I can get around to it. Things have just been really rough for me over the last couple of days when I normally would have gotten some more reviews out for you guys. And I really want to get this review out. I really like talking about this show, and I don't want this review to get pushed off to the side like so many of the other reviews that I've been wanting to do for you guys for such a long time that Starverses is getting in the way of because of its release schedule right now. I mean, honestly, I haven't come across a show that I like this much since Voltron, and that's a sad thing to say because now I'm kind of half worried this show is going to turn out the way that Voltron did. It is even another DreamWorks animation show. But I certainly hope not, and the writing so far is good enough that I really doubt that it's going to turn out the way that Voltron did. We'll see, I guess, but I don't really see it happening. It's a worry that's there, but it's not really one that I feel like I need to acknowledge. Because, I mean, man, I'm still not 100% sold on the animation style of this show, but everything else about it just keeps getting better with age. Like, I even recently went back and started rewatching the show from the beginning, and in my Season 1 review I said that they tried to sneak little lore bits in there, but not all of them really fit, or something to that effect, I believe. But, like, looking back on the show, they actually fit a whole lot better, and the lore stuff I think has worked better this season, too. We get interesting little character bits. The princesses are still working on honing that cool combination power-up thing that they did at the end of Season 1. It is an actual thing. It wasn't just a Deus Ex Machina. It's an actual thing that they can do, that they can learn to do and learn to control. We get backstory for Bo, which we didn't get hardly any of in Season 1. And even get to meet his parents, which was a fantastic episode. Entrapta, of course, was a true force throughout this season. Man, I love her character so much, and I am so glad that they didn't, like, tone her down or anything. Her being with the Horde at this point, they very easily could have done something along the lines of the Horde kind of beats her down and doesn't let her be herself anymore, but they let her be herself, which I think is going to come around to be a bad thing for the Horde eventually, but I'll talk about that in a second. And it's actually through her that we get to learn more about the evil Lord Hordak, who we got, like, no characterization of in the first season, and it seems like he has motivations that go well beyond conquering Eternia, that he has some additional reason for being here. And I don't know if they're trying to set it up as something sympathetic or at the very least understandable, but it felt that way, and I'm really interested in seeing where that goes. Because if it turned out that Hordak is like the kind of villain who is trying to do something good-ish at least, just in a very pragmatic way where he has to hurt people to get there, that would be a really nice twist on this character as a whole. But yeah, Entrapta was still the best thing in the entire season, at least in my opinion, though not the most strongly written. I actually feel like there were things in this season where the writing was better than on her specifically, which is, I think, just great. That is a stamp of quality right there. Because, like, as cool as it was to see her in her element doing the tech thing, interacting with people who she's never interacted with before, in her unique way of interacting, there were other fantastic character interactions this season as well. We got to know Scorpia a lot better too, and man, she is not a bad person at all, and I actually have some thoughts about her and Entrapta and the Horde, and I'll talk about that towards the end of the review. Most interesting though this season, I think, was the character dynamic between the good guy main characters and the bad guy main characters. They clash a couple times throughout this season, and we already know that Adora and Catra know each other super well, but as they're interacting, as they're fighting, as they're trying to either capture or kill each other, they actually start to build a rapport with each other. Like, the interactions between Catra and Glimmer and Bow are still super antagonistic, but, like, interactions between them and Scorpia are actually kind of halfway pleasant most of the time. There's a mission where Seahawk's along, and he builds a really strong rapport with Scorpia, and we learn throughout this season that Scorpia values loyalty above most other things, and at this point I'm starting to think that I mean, we kind of got some of this in the first season, that she gave up her, what are they called, the runestones or whatever? That she gave up her magic MacGuffin to the Horde to save her people, and when they kept their word, she became loyal to them, and because she values loyalty so much, that's why she stays with the Horde. It's not because she actually believes in what they're doing. And so I can't help but ask, what's going to happen once she starts to feel more loyal towards another group or a specific person than she feels loyal to the Horde itself? It was great. All of those interactions between the two main character groups were great. The dialogue was so on point. This is primarily a Steven Universe channel, so think of it as the dialogue that happened between Steven, Amethyst, and Peridot, and Jasper in Beta and Earthlings. It was very expositional dialogue, which also developed the characters and kind of built an understanding between them. By the end, both sides understood the other a lot better than when they started. It was like that, but over multiple episodes as sort of a mini arc this season, and I think better, honestly, like better written. We also get the actual backstory of Shadow Weaver through a flashback, and man, it was harsher than I expected. Like, they went to a dark place a couple of times in that flashback episode that I didn't expect them to go to in a show like this. I have a much better understanding of Shadow Weaver now. I hate her still, like, even more so than I did to start with, but I have a much better understanding of who she is and why she does what she does. But I know I've said this a few times, the most interesting thing this season, like, objectively speaking, was definitely the development of the relationship between Shadow Weaver and Catra. Catra is Force Captain now. Shadow Weaver is in prison. And they have various dialogues throughout the season, and I'm not going to spoil it directly, but we get to see just how manipulative Shadow Weaver is. And I understand Catra and her actions a whole lot more now. I understand fully how she could become this kind of person who is so desperate to impress the people around her that she won't allow her opinions to bend or change at all, and she gets so defensive and recoils so completely into herself and lashes out at others. It makes perfect sense, and it's all because she was an abused child. Her mother was an abusive parent and is continuing to abuse her. It's heartbreaking. And I do definitely think they're setting up Catra as a character who will eventually come around and side against the baddies. Like, they could go a really tragic direction with it, and that never happened, and Catra ends up being imprisoned or killed or something like that. I don't think that's what they're doing. I think that'd be super unfair to such an unfairly treated character. But either way, man, that storyline was just... it hits you right there, guys. It really does. I loved it a lot. We also get a bit more of Adora's anxiety related to Catra. Catra understands her better than she understands herself. So every time they're going into a combat situation against Catra's forces, even though Adora is She-Ra and has been training to be a better She-Ra, she doesn't feel like she has a good chance of winning because she thinks that Catra will understand what she's going to do before she can do it. And it's unsaid, but she's worried that Catra is willing to kill her, whereas she's not willing to kill Catra. Just so much good character stuff, and they're starting to build some foundations for some greater revelations about the lore, which is just fantastic. I really like that a lot. It's not enough to really start thinking too hard about or theorizing about, but it's just enough to kind of whet the appetite for what I'm sure is going to be a big avalanche of lore, which comes relatively soon. If there's one weakness of this season, it's that it is painfully short. Man, is it short. It's only 7 episodes. It's clearly the first half of a season. It's clearly a half season. I don't know if they ever advertised it as such, but that's clearly what it is. Which is another parallel to Voltron, but I'm gonna ignore it for now. I'm gonna pretend like it's not there. Like, there's a lot of episodic stuff. There's a lot of good dialogues. I mentioned the good dialogues. A lot of great character moments in these 7 episodes, but just as the story, the overarching story of this season is starting to pick up, that's where it stops. And man, was I mad. I was so mad for like 3.5 seconds until I remembered all the good stuff that did come out of this season so far. I'm saying so far, because even if the next few episodes are labeled as season 3, they're just season 2.5. let's not kid ourselves. So maybe, if you haven't seen Season 2 yet, and you're someone who prefers a more complete arc, you should just wait for Season 3. I don't think you should, though. There's still enough here to warrant watching this season, I think. Like, for example, I mentioned I'd talk more about Scorpia here at the end, and Entrapta, and Catra as well. They all kind of get lumped in together, because they are together, they're a group. There are limited interactions between Entrapta and Bow and Glimmer in this season. I'm not going to spoil specifically what happened, because it was pretty interesting, and it's very clear up to this point that Entrapta doesn't realize that what she is doing is wrong. She is so blinded by all of the things that she is able to accomplish with the help of the Horde that she is blinded to the harm that she is doing and that she could possibly be doing. But they do make a point of showing us this season that she does have ethical dilemmas. It's just she's so impulsive that she never really follows what she determines to be the proper ethical course. I definitely think that's the setup that eventually she is going to see undeniable proof of the harm that she is causing, and that finally her ethics are going to override her sense of wonder and discovery, and that she is going to turn on the Horde and come back around to the right side. I think especially once she learns that her friends didn't knowingly abandon her, that's going to make all the difference, because as far as I recall, she never actually learned that this season so far. So it's going to be super interesting to see what happens when she does. And this relates back to Scorpia, because Scorpia is clearly developing a bond with Catra. I'd even go so far as to say that she has feelings for Catra. And Catra is very similarly blinded by her desire to prove herself to the Horde, which she sees as her family. So you have one character who is blinded by their desire to learn and discover and create, and another character who is blinded by the ties to their family and the feeling that their family is betraying them, the feeling that they can't live up to their family's expectations. And in the middle, you have Scorpia, who likes both of these people, considers both of them her friends, and I think is becoming more loyal to the two of them than she is to the Horde itself. And I think that eventually she is going to realize that the Horde is not the best place for these two people, and that she's actually going to be the factor which causes them to break away from the Horde. And maybe they'll spend a little bit of time where they're not really allied with either side. They're kind of a third party caught in the middle of the conflict. But eventually I do think that because Scorpia is not a bad person, because she does seem to have such a strong moral compass and such a strong, I don't know what the right word would be, nurturing side, I guess would be the best way of putting it, that eventually she is going to be the one to take them away from this place which threatens to harm them. I don't know what shape that's going to take yet, but I definitely feel like that's the direction that they're going with things. And if it is, I'm super interested in seeing that. In fact, I'm just kind of super excited to see more of this show in general. The next batch of episodes cannot come soon enough. I love this show a lot. Season 1 was good. Season 2 was better. And I hope it continues to improve, or at the very least, reaches a plateau which is satisfying enough that it doesn't really need to improve anymore, that it can just keep doing what it's doing, and I'll just keep loving it. All of that said, though, guys, if you have seen the Entrapta show, wait, hold on a second, that's wrong. As per usual, guys, if you have seen She-Ra and the Princesses of Power Season 2 on Netflix, what did you guys think of it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over my Discord, link in the description. And while you're down there, if you have the time, I'd like to ask you to take the time to check out that link to my Patreon. I'm essentially taking requests for theories or reviews at this point, regardless of which tier you pledge to. So if you like the kind of content that I produce and you'd like to have more of a hand in helping me to produce it, Patreon's a great place to start. Though I also have a coffee link down there as well, so if you'd like to make a one-time donation, there is that possibility now too. Either way, though, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.